what in the hell are the Philadelphia Eagles going to do with Nick Foles? I don't even think the Eagles know right now what they're going to do with Nick Foles. So every report you hear, it's all going to be bullshit. Brendan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. What are the Eagles going to do with Nick Foles?
There's a lot of different ways you can go here. I think the truth is we have to kind of accept the fact that to date, Carson Wentz isn't exactly Eli Manning in terms of health. Now, he's better than Eli Manning in everything else, right? So let's not get twisted here. And you know what? If you're telling me the only knock on my quarterback is he's not 100% healthy every single game, it tells me he's pretty freaking good at everything else. So I'm still cool with that. Let's not get twisted. But you do have to at least acknowledge that you will have to invest in a backup like most teams do. So there is a little bit of growing concern here about the value of Nick Foles is a little bit higher with Carson Wentz's injury history. But to me, Adrian, I don't think there's a question. You should have traded him last year, in my opinion. Even if he came in and he won some games for you, I don't care. You still should have traded him last year. And if you have the chance to trade him this year, you should.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that discussion right away, that compensatory discussion, because everybody's saying it's going to be extremely difficult for the Eagles to make all the pieces work and make all the maneuvering happen. Now, there's something we talked about pre-show that I'm wondering about. We're really trying to figure out the details to this because it would make sense as to why everything is so complicated if this player isn't allowed to be released for the start of the league year, and that's Nelson Agholor. Nelson Agholor is set to make $9.3 million because they picked up his fifth-year player option. Now, if we're understanding the rule correctly, we could be wrong about this. We're going to try and figure this out. But you may not be allowed to release him until after the league year starts because you picked up his fifth-year player option. And if that's the case, that makes everything else definitely a lot more complicated.
Yeah, because that $9 million is a big factor here on what the money the Eagles will or won't have against the cap. So should they need to do the trade there for Foles? Because they will need to have the money for Foles, at least initially, to be on the roster before they then move him. So it's going to get really wacky here because, Adrian, there's a lot of different names that you and I talked about pre-show that potentially could be in the mix, again, pending what happens here with Nelson.
Yeah, and, look, this is definitely a difficult discussion for the Eagles organization about who they would get rid of because the guys we're talking about getting rid of, we're talking about Jason Peters to start. That's the first one. And is Doug Peterson really ready to let a guy like that go? I know he gets hurt a lot, but when he plays, you saw what he did against Khalil Mack. Are they really ready to let him walk for $8 million when you have Big V and an uncertainty at the left tackle position?
Yeah, I'm with you, Adrian. And I think, to be honest with you, we're going to play the hindsight game. But you and I was very boisterous with this. I didn't love the Dallas Goedert pick because I was like, you don't need this. This is not something that financially makes a lot of sense for you. Cool, you can run 2 tight end sets. Yeah, but, financially, it's not like you're ever going to cut Zach Ertz, right? So why would you take a tight end to essentially just be a backup that high? I do agree with you. Man, hindsight's 2020 here. I get it, and there's a million different things you can do. Personally, I would move on from Peters. And I say that because I always would rather move on from someone when it's too soon than when it's too late. So with his high cap number, I probably would move on from him, even if, Adrian, he goes and he could be a starting left tackle tomorrow at another NFL team. I don't know if he could be a starting left tackle for another NFL team in 2 years. So I would move on here from Peters if that was the question.
Yeah. Okay. So to get into some more details, you cannot rework contracts before the start of the league year. So forget about that option because there's some people that were, bring that up to me. No, you can't do that. So the guys that you release, you have to get to about $20 million because
right.
The Eagles are projected to be about $15 million over the cap, and the projected number of the salary cap is $190 million. We're going to see what that number is going to be. The movement of even a couple $1 million is going to be huge here. You're going to find out temporarily why it's so huge. So if you franchise tag and trade Nick Foles, you're looking at a $25 million contract, and then all of a sudden you got to get rid of $20 million in money. So if Nelson Agholor cannot be part of this discussion, you're looking at Jason Peters for $8 million, Rodney McLeod for $5 million, and Timmy Jernigan for $6 So 6 plus 5 is 11 plus 8, that's 19. That's not even at the number yet. So you can see right here how difficult this is actually going to be. Is it worth getting rid of all of these players for the opportunity to trade Nick Foles, not knowing what you can potentially get when you know what you're going to get in the compensatory route?
Yeah, you're 100% right there, Adrian. The compensatory route really does bring up an interesting situation. But the tough thing is the compensatory route is based on, A, how much he gets paid, and then also how he performs too. So let's play this out. Let's say, for example, he goes somewhere, I don't know, he goes to the Giants, and the Giants end up drafting a quarterback in the first round. Well, what if he only plays half the year? Then all of a sudden his value or his talent is going to be very low, which means what? He's not going to hit all of the goals for the Eagles to see a more compensatory pick back. Same thing if you go to a team who's looking for the salary situation. Talk about Jacksonville. This is a team that's been talked a lot about. Jacksonville's not exactly flush with cash. It's not like the Colts or the Browns who are loaded where they could pay a shit ton of money. So because of that, the value of that compensatory pick that the Eagles would get back would be a little less likely because it's tied to how much he gets. So the value potentially, Adrian, is the Eagles could say, look, we'll give you the money, so we know the money's going to be high, and then we can trade you to a team because we're going to allow him to be successful somewhere. And I think, you know what, the Eagles really do want to do right by Nick Foles. I think they honestly do. And they probably know, I'm not sure if he's going to get this exact amount of money if he's a free agent versus if it's a sign and trade. Something tells me, Adrian, I think he'll get more money as a signing trade than a free agent.
Okay. I do have a couple things to kind of ask you about the compensatory route if you're kind of like an expert in that area. So from what I know, 32 compensatory picks are rewarded. So there's basically an 8-round NFL draft, not 7. And the top 3, like in terms of the AAV, average annual value, that's what gets the 3rd round pick. So I thought that meant like what they got in the offseason. So you're telling me it's also based on player performance.
Here's the tough thing, Adrian. This is not public information. The NFL has never made this public knowledge. So to be completely honest with you, we are spitballing based on what we've seen in the past, which makes it really difficult for anyone to say, oh, you'll definitely be a 3rd, you'll definitely be a 4th. Like if Golden Tate goes somewhere and gets paid really top dollar, he'll probably get north of $10 million, is my guess, okay? I also believe it's based on a little bit of performance, but to be honest with you, Adrian, the NFL's never made this public knowledge, so I don't know definitively.
Yeah. So we're all just kind of guessing here. Most people think he's going to be a 3rd. That's like what most people think.
And you know what? I think it would make sense because when you look at the wide receiver free agency class this year, it's nowhere near as big as the year when, Alshon Jeffrey was a free agent. So what happens here is you have teams who are competing, and let's use a team I talked about earlier, Indianapolis Colts. They have money to set on fire right now. So they can give a shit ton of money. And then you look at other teams who are contenders, Seattle Seahawks. How about the 49ers? How about the Baltimore Ravens? These are all teams who very realistically could talk themselves into saying, one, we have a shit ton of money like Indianapolis does. Or you could see a team like Seattle or Baltimore saying, hey, we could potentially win a Super Bowl if we get kind of a gap receiver. So I do believe that he will ultimately be gone in Philadelphia just because he's going to get more money elsewhere. I think the same thing's going to happen, to be honest with you, Adrian, with Brandon Graham. Yeah.
So to kind of get back to the players before we look at trade scenarios. So the other names I wrote down for the show yesterday. So if we're at 19 million, we still got to cut somebody else. Here are the other guys. So I'm going to ask you, who would you get rid of? And I think this is tough. Chris Long, $5.3 million you would save. I think it would be smart to bring him back, especially if you're not, bringing back Brandon Graham and stuff.
Right.
Nigel Bradham, you're probably losing Jordan Hicks, so that $5 million that you're saved, I wouldn't do that. Michael Bennett, he was a beast. I'm not getting rid of the $7 million because he was a beast. The other one, maybe, Stefan Wisniewski, the $3 million that you would save with him, if that's like the make or break guy that you would need to do, okay, maybe. The thing with him is Brandon Brooks got hurt. I mean, yeah, sure, you can, probably pluck another guard from somewhere. But, the Brandon Brooks injury, he may not be ready for the start of the year. So that's the whole situation with Wiz.
Unfortunately, I think Wiz is the guy there and the odd man out.
Yes,
I said this.
I would agree. If they go the Nick Foles trade route, that makes the most sense. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think he's the odd man out. Adrian, you and me talked about this before the draft last year. Linebacker was something that both you and me said the Eagles needed to get more depth in. Didn't really address that in the NFL draft last year seriously. And look, I like Nigel Bradham a lot. I think he's a really, really underrated and really good linebacker there. So I think anything, even bringing him up, is just a very, very poor idea. I think he's a lock to still be there, not only because of his skill, but also because of lack of other options on the roster.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So I'm gonna put it to you like this. So, like, there are people who are like, you have to trade Nick Foles. You have to get value out of this. But the reason why it's so difficult, look at the players you're gonna have to cut here.
Right.
So is it worth this? All right. So you're basically trading in a way. Jason Peters, Rodney McLeod, Timmy Jernigan, Stefan Wisniewski, Nick Foles. Because in my trade scenario, I'm going bold. A first and a fourth for Jalen Ramsey. That's basically all you're getting rid of for one player if you do like that crazy trade scenario I suggested.
Yeah, and I get everything you're saying there, Adrian, because it's not necessarily you're trading 8 guys to the Jacksonville Jaguars directly. No, what you're doing is you're moving the contracts off the books to allow you to even complete this trade. You can't make this trade unless you move numbers around on the books. Now, that said, I do think the Eagles is probably the best front office in terms of financial moving numbers around. But look, honestly, Adrian, I said last year, safety was a position that needed to be upgraded. Ryan McLeod's not very good. I really don't think Ryan McLeod's very good. So he's not a concern to me. Wiz was a concern to me. Timmy Jernigan, yeah, he's a really good player, but you know what? For what he signed in Philadelphia, I never thought for a second he actually was going to get all that money from the Eagles. So I'm not terribly surprised if he moves on. But for Jalen Ramsey, it's tough, man, because you got to remember it's a rental. Because in a year, you got to back up the Brinks truck and pay him big money because he is one of the best, if not the best, corner.
Yeah, and with Howie Roseman, the way that he's been able to re-sign players, that's why I would take the chance on to protect, because you only have him for a year, And the thing about the way that I think the Eagles are going to go the next couple years. So before, obviously, they did the Carson Wentz trade, right? They got rid of a lot of draft compensation, and they went kind of the free agent route. And they tried to sign the free agents that were coming off their first rookie deals, sign them to like 3 to 4 year deals. Rodney McLeod was one of those players. So now we're kind of reaching the end of that, sort of blueprint. And now a new blueprint needs to be formed. And the Eagles, all of a sudden, they're going to be getting a lot more draft picks over the next couple of years. So I see – a situation here where they're going to be drafting a lot more players instead of going the free agent route.
You're 100% right, Adrian. And everyone talks about, you need to win when your quarterback's on a rookie contract. Yeah, that's definitely true. That definitely is true, and it makes sense. But people always will then say, well, what about Brady? Yeah, it's true. Brady gives a lot of money back. But here's also the thing people don't know about the Patriots. And this is also something the Eagles could do. The Patriots left tackle is the 29th highest paid left tackle in the NFL. 29th. He is almost the very, very last. And yet the Patriots have a fantastic offensive line. So I say this because if you are 100% confident in your scouting department and you're 100% in certain coaching positions, you can invest heavier in certain areas to save money. The Eagles, perfect example, have never drafted a running back in the first round. This is not a position the Eagles have financially put money into. They've put money into other places here. So the Eagles could say, you know what? We can back up the Brinks truck for Jalen Ramsey because he's worth it, for Carson Wentz because he's worth it, but then we really got to crush it at some of the other highest paid positions, defensive end and left tackle. Those are the positions you have to crush it at because financially those are usually the 4 positions: corner, quarterback, left tackle, rush. Those are the 4 positions that really bankroll a team either to stability or to financial hardship.
The reason why I really, really want Jalen Ramsey, he takes away half of the field. And for this defense, because Jim Schwartz, he hesitates with the blitz. He doesn't like the blitz all the time. All of a sudden, if you got Jalen Ramsey, you're going to be seeing a little bit more blitzing. You're going to be seeing a little bit more pressure. And that defense is going to get so good if you can bring a guy like that in. Now, I know that, like, this is a crazy trade scenario that only I'm basically bringing up. But, like, the point of it is if you're going to do all of this maneuvering around to tag and trade Nick Foles, if I'm going to do that, I'm going something bold. I'm not going to do all that just for, like, a second-round pick. No. I want the best damn corner in the league.
I'm with you 1,000%, man. Like, hey, if we're doing it, let's roll the dice and do it right and try to win now. Now, that said, if you're asking me, I'm asking Foles. He has deserved the right. One of the very, very few players ever in NFL history that actually deserves the right to choose his own destination in a trade. Very rare we've ever said that, but he's deserved that. I'm asking him, hey, be honest with me. What are some teams you want to go to? We're still going to take the best option, but what are some teams you want to go to? And even if that option is the New York Giants or the Washington Redskins, I'm still making that trade. Because in my opinion, the way you really hurt a team is when you overpay a quarterback. And I like Nick Foles, but I think he could get overpaid by those teams. And then we could watch the Washington Redskins or the New York Giants financially be screwed. And then at me as the Philadelphia Eagles, I could reap the benefits from higher draft picks. So to me, I'm taking the best option that I get as long as Nick Foles is okay with going to that destination.
All right, so here's where we get to the teams. We'll get to the trade scenarios and who these teams might be. So I've got some written down. I think 2 or 3 really make sense. And you brought up the Redskins, so we'll see about that. I think the Jags make the most sense. That's why I like bring up the Jalen Ramsey thing. Not only just the John DeFilippo thing, but I think the way that they like to play, just smash mouth, run the ball down your throat. And with Nick Foles, he's a deep passer. He's got that deep ball. And the way that they go, the methodical approach, Nick Foles is like such a team guy. He doesn't care about his stats. He will hand the ball off all game if you tell him to. Mm-hmm. So he's going to fit that style of play. I think it makes so much sense in Jacksonville. You got the John DeFilippo connection. I mean, that's the destination right there.
I agree. Yeah, I think all things considered, that one makes the most rational sense, especially because Jacksonville has a chance to win a Super Bowl right now. So to them, they're probably going to be the most aggressive. So I think the only thing that potentially could hurt the Philadelphia Eagles would be guys like Teddy Bridgewater, Joe Flacco, Tyrod Taylor, those type of guys. Maybe one of them ends up in Jacksonville before the Eagles can make the trade. But I agree with you 100%, Adrian. Jacksonville is the team that makes the most sense.
Yeah. All right. So that's the one right there. So the other ones I got written down. I got the Redskins written down, and I think the Broncos are the other team that make a lot of sense just based on John Elway's decision-making in the past, wanting of that veteran quarterback. He went after Case Keenum last year, went after Peyton Manning. I mean, that's kind of the route he likes to go. So I think that makes sense. Now, other teams that I don't think make as much sense but probably still in the mix. I mean, you brought up the Giants. I don't think the Raiders make sense because they're not ready to win right now. Miami, I think they're looking to tank and draft high next year.
Yep.
Cincinnati, maybe if they move on from Dalton, but I don't think that's really realistic either. So I think it really comes down to the Redskins, the Broncos, and the Jaguars, and maybe the Giants.
Yeah, I would flip the Giants and the Broncos in my projection. And the only reason I say that is because I think that they are going to give Case Keenum another year of being the bridge guy. That said, the same could be said about Eli Manning. So, yeah, I think both of those are kind of a wacky situation. I think Washington and I think Jacksonville are the two leaps and bounds most logical situations there, Adrian, right now. I buy everything else you're saying, though. Cincinnati could be interesting, because they do have a new regime there. Yeah. It's a similar situation in Miami, a new regime there. You could see both of them say, look, maybe this is the opportunity to move on from our quarterbacks, get a bridge guy, and maybe draft a quarterback. The problem is, you and I both know, Adrian, it's not a great year for drafting a quarterback. So I'm with you. I still think it's Washington. I still think it's Jacksonville, the most logical destinations.
And because this is a year where there's really not a great quarterback, that's what makes Nick Foles' trade value more valuable this year than last offseason. Because last offseason you saw 4 quarterbacks or 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. Now, you might see a bunch of quarterbacks go in the first round again, but, none of these guys are any good. Do you like any of them? Is there any of them you like this feels like the who's the guy that got drafted from Buffalo? I forget his name. EJ Manuel.
Oh my, EJ Manuel.
This is the EJ Manuel draft. There's nobody.
I've always said this: between December and the draft, every NFL team who needs a quarterback will talk them into why a guy is a first-round pick. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the simple fact. Quarterbacks will be invented in their minds, and they will draft them. Drew Lock will go in the first round. The Broncos will probably take him because John Elway will think, oh, it looks just like me out there. I don't like any of these quarterbacks. I'm not a huge fan of them. I would probably say Daniel Jones is my favorite if you ask me who my favorite one is.
Yeah.
I mean, the simple fact is, man, you're going to see a lot of these guys get taken. Murray's going to go in the first round. We're obviously going to see Haskins go in the first round. We're going to see Drew Lock in the first round. We'll probably see Daniel Jones in the first round. I don't think any of them are first-round quarterbacks, but you'll see it because the demand says so. And also, again, the fact that you can get that fifth-year option for a quarterback in the first round versus the second round, that's the sole reason these guys will go, i.e. Lamar Jackson went at 32, and he's not a top 32 player in the draft last year.
I'll give you a name that I might have as my number one guy. I'm not sure yet because I got to look at more tape. But I hate all these guys, and there's one guy that I kind of like, Ryan Finley from NC State.
I'm not a fan of him. And the reason I say that is I think he's got kind of a weenie arm. So I think he's one of those guys who, it's like Kellen Moore was at Boise State. You know, yeah, he does probably a lot of nice things, gets the ball out pretty quick, all that type of jazz. But I think he's just kind of a wet noodle of an arm. I don't think he's got enough zip to make the ball because, especially in the NFL, when the hashes move in tighter, you need to have more arm strength to get the ball outside. I just don't think he has it, Adrian.
You see, I when I saw him, I saw a little Kirk in him, little Kirk Cousins. But I don't like any of these guys. Like, I just don't. Daniel Jones would be the guy. All right, anyway, just kind of continue the conversation because I know we only got 15 more minutes left with you. So if we're talking trade compensation, what are you kind of looking at? What are you looking at with Jacksonville's sake? Because there's a lot of people talking Foles for Leonard Fournette straight up. I'm with you there because here's why I say that. Doug likes the multi-dimensional backs. He likes the Le'Veon Bells. He wanted Christian McCaffrey. Leonard Fournette is LeGarrette Blount. And LeGarrette Blount role, you know, it's great to fill the LeGarrette Blount role, but, like, you're not going to fill the LeGarrette Blount role with a guy like Leonard Fournette. You're going to fill it with, like, a guy like, I don't know, say a third-round pick or second-round pick like a Benny Snell or something. You're not going to do that with Fournette.
You're 100% right because you also have to pay him then. That's the other issue. And, again, the Philadelphia Eagles have never been a team who's invested a lot of financials or a lot of dollars and cents into the running back position.
Well, this is that JHI thing that they would do, like the whole and then get rid of them.
It does not make sense to me at all. It would make more sense for the Eagles to sign a one-year deal or a short-term deal with JHI, run the tires in the ground, draft a guy like a David Montgomery or a Damian Harrison from Alabama in those mid-rounds, and kind of let those guys see if we can catch lightning in a bottle. But it doesn't make sense for the Eagles financially to trade for Le'Veon Bell. If you wanted to talk about a big name back, I hate to say this because some people might really hate us, Kareem Hunt would make a far more sense as far as a skill set goes in Philadelphia. And honestly, you don't got to pay him anything. The only thing you pay him is a little bit of PR for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles are okay with taking the PR, i.e. Michael Vick did play there after serving his jail sentence.
I low-key think this is going to happen for several different reasons. One is that, and the other one is the compensatory game. He doesn't count against the compensatory picks. And that's the way to fix your running back. Like, they don't want to invest a lot in a running back. That's the guy. You know, and I don't know if I'd agree with it, but I could see it. Wouldn't surprise me. And, you know, Doug Peterson was there in Kansas City. I don't know if he was there with Kareem. Actually, probably wasn't there when Kareem Hunt was there. No, he wasn't. No, because this would be Hunt's third year. But still part of that Kansas City regime when you know, obviously with Andy Reid.
You're 100% right, Adrian. Everything you say there is 100% the right deal. Do I love it? No. I don't think you should play in the NFL personally. Yeah. That said, the NFL is not about, you know, being people of good faith. I mean, good humans aren't exactly in the NFL. We think we'd be naive to say, oh, well, my team doesn't have any bad characters on it. We'd all be naive to say that. Now, that said, as far as the trade value goes, man, this is tough. I think a fair trade value for a guy like Jalen Ramsey is really high. I mean, you gotta accept the fact you're going to pay him. I don't know, Adrian. I mean, I think a first and Foles for Ramsey, I think is probably a fair value if you ask me.
Yeah, I think it is too. It's a late first too.
Right.
So it's not like a crazy. That's why I put a little sweetener in my deal yesterday. I threw a fourth in there. If you look at like the trade charts, about 50-something points, and the difference between the 25th pick and the 15th pick, for example, which is
massive.
330 points. So that's a big deal in terms of picking in middle of the first round, later in the first round. Say they're like it's going to be a great D-line class, and not that the Jags need D linemen, but that's like a situation there. You're not going to get like a better pick. You're getting like the last of the litter by the time you get to the late in the first round.
I agree with you, and I know you said the Jags don't necessarily need a defensive lineman. That's probably true, but I also could say forecasting as far as financial security. Maybe they draft the defensive lineman, they move on for Calais Campbell in a year, right? Because they're saying, all right, well, there's a big cap saver there. I think it's also important too to remember the Eagles have 2 second-round picks this year. They're almost right on top of each other, so they're not like a huge gap. But even if the Eagles move off of one, you still get 2. Usually you figure your first and second round guys are instant starter. Third and fourth round guys are guys who are rotation. 5th through 7 are projectors. So in theory, you're still getting 2 potential starters there. And for the Eagles, who really need help, maybe along that defensive line again, because we talked about Timmy Jernigan, Burnett. There's a lot of different potential opportunities there. Maybe this is a way the Eagles go to justify moving on from them is to draft them this year and save some money.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we can discuss the other teams. Would you get that 15th pick from the Redskins for Nick Foles? Is that possible?
No, I don't think that's realistic. I don't think Nick Foles is worth that high of a draft pick. Now, if you're going to sugarcoat it and you're going to say, hey, maybe I'll offer you that pick and maybe we'll offer you some mid-round guys to kind of help it, I think that's possible.
So like Nick
but just
Foles and like a 4th or something or a 3rd.
Maybe even more than that, to be honest with you. I actually don't love the idea of trading a first. If I'm any NFL team, how many years does Nick Foles have? 3, maybe 4, right? First round pick, I'm usually asking for a minimum of 5. No, I don't think I'd make that deal, Adrian.
Howie Roseman's been known to do crazy things.
Sam Bradford went for a first round pick.
Exactly. So, and that wound up being what, the 13th pick, which is what basically this is. This is the 15th. Now, that is the thing about some of these other teams. It's like, Jacksonville's first-round pick is 7th overall. You're not going to get the 7th overall pick from Jacksonville. That's why there's been talk of, players being involved and not picks.
Yeah, I get that. And I kind of like the idea of the Eagles, honestly. If you can get Jalen Ramsey, obviously no-brainer. If you can't get a superstar like that, I would go draft pick heavy, and I'd be completely okay with that.
Yeah, and that's the chance you're taking here is, you don't know if you can get, the guy that you really want. And then all of a sudden you're getting rid of all these, guys that maybe you may wanted to bring back. And now all of a sudden, that's the complexity of this situation here.
Exactly. I'm always a proponent of more draft picks. And I say that because the draft picks, you can control their salary a little bit more. And you think about guys, depending on the position, of course, typically you're going to see majority of this is going to be, in their 3rd to 5th year. That's usually when they're in their prime. And usually that's still under the rookie-controlled wage scale. Yeah,
because you're looking at Washington, that's 15th pick. Denver's 10th. So that's probably not going to happen. The Giants are 6th. So, in terms of a first-round selection, I think the only one that's, realistic is Washington. And you're saying, no, that's not going to happen. So if that's not going to happen, if the Eagles can't really get a first, maybe the compensatory route is best.
Yeah, and again, I don't think you can get a first for him because, again, the teams who need a quarterback are all so high.
Yeah, unless you're 13th and they're going to tank. Oakland, they're not going to trade, but they have the 24th and the 27th. Like that might be realistic.
That might be, but then I mean, if I'm the Raiders, I'm thinking to
Oh no,
myself,
they're not trading the first. No, because they're not ready to win right now.
right?
I'm just saying, like, I'm just in terms of a team that would offer a first round pick. It's going to be a team in the later half of the first round. It's like this isn't as easy as you would think. You know, trading Nick Foles and getting the value that you would desire.
Absolutely.
So that's why it's like I feel like there could be only like really only a couple teams. Jacksonville's really the only team that I'm really interested in terms of what they have. I mean, I want Jalen Ramsey. I mean, the chances of that happening probably what 10%. I mean, like you're not going to pluck Jalen Ramsey away.
Yeah, I'm with you, Adrian. I mean, Jacksonville's the team that honestly makes the most sense. The only other thing that potentially could make sense here, it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to pop this bubble before I even inflate it too much. If Brady retired, then
Oh
okay,
yeah,
that would be a situation.
That actually makes the most sense.
That would be a very realistic situation. It's not going to happen. But if he did retire and they're sitting there with the 31-32 pick and they obviously think they can still win another Super Bowl or two, okay, yeah, that makes sense. But that's not going to happen.
He's a system guy. I believe so. Nick Foles is. So I think that would make sense for the Patriots. But, you know, obviously Brady has already said, yeah, you know, I'm not retiring. I'm trying to win more Super Bowls.
Right.
So, all right, so I guess I'll ask you, what do you think they should do?
Trade him. I still stand by it.
You trade him and try to get the draft picks.
I would actually trade him for the draft picks. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. If I could get Jalen Ramsey, that'd be awesome. That'd be amazing. But if you're telling me I can have Jalen Ramsey, or let's say I could have a top 50 draft pick.
Like, can you get a second and like a fifth or a fourth or something for him
instead of that's fair. Yeah, I think you could probably, as far as a draft pick, I think you probably could get a draft pick 40 to 60. Now that said, again, Sam Bradford went for a first round pick. All right, so like everything I say here, I always like say tongue in cheek. Do I think his value is probably 40 to 60? Yeah, I do. But Sam Bradford went for a top 15 pick once. Okay, so weirder things have happened for sure. But I think, Adrian, you know, having expectations of a top 60 draft pick for Nick Foles straight up, I think that's probably fair. And honestly, for the Eagles, I think that's a good deal.
And top 60 straight up, as opposed to say like that compensatory, which would actually be like it would be a late third because they don't put you in like the compensatory. They come late in the round.
It would typically be around 100.
Yeah. So you're not getting a top 100 player with that third round pick. No. So there's a big drastic difference. And I'm looking at the second rounders, and like Jacksonville's at 38. So you get the 38th overall. That's a value of 520 points. So like Washington say 1050 for the 15th. Jacksonville 520 for the second. So if you're looking for like a sweetener, maybe they would add like a fourth or a fifth in there, which would be like another 90 points.
Right, exactly right.
So a second and a fourth. If you're not including Jalen Ramsey in this deal, or like a player or Fournette or whatever, you're probably looking at something like that's the most realistic scenario is a second and a fourth if you're trading it.
If you asked me straight up, if the Jacksonville Jaguars said, hey, we have three options on the table, Jalen Ramsey, let's say the 38th pick, let's use that for example, or Leonard Fournette, what do you want? I want the 38th pick because I want to make sure my team financially is in a good spot moving forward. If I take Jalen Ramsey, it's a short-term boom. Yes, absolutely, my defense is going to be unbelievable, and I probably can win a Super Bowl next year. But I also worry about being a bust in 2 to 3 years because financially all my money is in there. I've seen a lot of corners get paid. I know Philadelphia Eagles don't want to hear me say his name, but the Eagles have seen corners get paid a lot, and it really fucks your team financially. So I would take the draft pick. Then my second option would be Ramsey. My third option is Leonard Fournette. I'd probably hang up the phone, to be honest with you, if someone called me and offered me that deal.
Yeah. I'm not a big on the Fournette thing. I kind of want to like avoid that. I might even make a video on that because that's a route that it seems like a lot of people are interested in. And you know, there you go. All right, we got a couple more minutes left. I guess I'll just hit you with final thoughts. Basically, we seem to be in the same kind of playing field. Jacksonville, I want the player. I want the juicy corner. I think you can make it work financially just from looking at, you know, the next couple years and how they're setting up and all the contracts that are about to be kind of unloaded. So you're looking at having more draft picks. So it's I'm not looking at this Jalen Ramsey thing like without foresight.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get where you're coming from, Adrian. I'm always going to lean more towards the draft picks, and I say
Yeah.
that because I just think about it from a financial situation, and I always would rather have more money to sign a free agent than trade for someone that I have to pay a lot of money for. So I'd rather have the short-term free agency situation, like an Alshon Jeffrey type of deal, than all of a sudden trade for Julio and then knowing I have to pay back end and pay Julio kind of thing.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though. If you trade Nick Foles and make all that happen, all of a sudden you're $20 million under the cap. You're going to restructure some deals because Howie's a magician. All of a sudden you're going to free up some money, and you're going to be able to go after maybe some guys. So maybe at the end of the day, when you really look at it, after the trade actually happens, then you can really go attack and go after the holes that, you kind of just left because of the guys you had to release.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree.
Okay. Final thoughts? Anything else?
Look, I think it's one of those things where if you really want what's best for Nick Foles and you want what's best for the Philadelphia Eagles, trading him is the right option.
Yep.
Even if it means you got to make some uncomfortable moves and cut some other guys, long term, this is the right decision.
There it is. All right, that's Brennan Albert. I'm Adrian Fedque. Take care, guys. Peace.
See you guys.